Welcome back to Movie Recap. Today I'm gonna show you a 2006 period psychological thriller film called Perfume, the story of a murderer. Spoilers ahead. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. The movie begins with a man staring into the void. Sweat trickles from his forehead as he contemplates. His eyes were relatively empty, emotionless, and dull. Not soon after, the door opens. A man, professional looking with his kinky wig, walks in with his posse. The party was in a hurry. The man with the unnatural hair opened the rusted prison cell. His posse then proceeds to grab the chains and pulls the criminal by the neck. They walk past through a dim-lit corridor, and the criminal struggles as he walks, chains bound both his hands and feet. Screams of anger are heard in the background. The party then arrives at a room of waiting men. As they see the criminal, they open the glass door leading outside. The screams get louder. Everybody in the room goes out through the glass door. The criminal is greeted by cries of rage. An announcer reads his sentence and the angry mob quiets down. The verdict is for the criminal, Jean-Baptiste Grenouille, to be brutally crucified in 2 days. The crowd cheers, clearly pleased with the sentence. Ben Whishaw's character, Jean-Baptiste Grenouille, was born into a world of smells that are unfathomable today. He was delivered from his mother's womb upon a pile of trash under her fish cart in the middle of a noisy and muddy Parisian marketplace. The ambience is depressing. While giving birth, she makes it look easy. It was as if she took a crap, like she defecated large dung. Assuming that he would be another failure, she abandons him and presumes the worst. Years before contemporary ideas on public health, sewerage, and waste management came into effect in Paris, France. In 1738, the unwritten rule was that a city's odor went even worse than it proliferated. The scene is genuinely horrendous. Decaying fish gut in every stall, rotting flesh, wet mud everywhere, maggots, animal entrails, and fresh vomit. Smells in the marketplace arouse the newborn from his postpartum coma. Aromas give him life, and they will continue to do so till he dies. When the baby's first cry is heard, the audience realizes that his mother has committed the crime of abandoning him, and she is sentenced to death. Like most of us, Jean-Baptiste depends on his heightened olfactory senses to compensate for his lack of vision or a keen sense of hearing for his blindness. As a result, Jean-Baptiste is raised as an orphan, moving from foster home to foster family due to his challenging nature. Jean-Baptiste, who is still unable to communicate verbally at the age of 5, uses his olfactory sense to map out his surroundings by picturing what the scents tell him. Using his sense of smell, he then uses it as a radar for seeing danger. He ducks and dodges to avoid being hit in the face of an approaching rotten apple from an orphan pal. Nevertheless, he already seems determined to become a perfumer. He mixes the smells of a fallen branch, a leaf, and an apple and compares them to the scent of an apple tree nearby. Eventually, he's no longer considered an orphan, so a tannery buys him for 7 francs and tans him. Despite hardly having a life, Jean-Baptiste succeeds where few others have. When Jean-Baptiste is old enough to distribute skin in downtown Paris on his first excursion, he discovers the amazing world of scents that he had previously missed: spices, equines, wig powder, fresh fruit, and most all, women's perfumes. The fact that he has exceptional smelling skills is unknown to anybody. Therefore, nothing escapes his notice. Because of this, he can smell worms on rotting foods and sense intruders approaching a house, which appears impressive. When it's pitch black, he can find his way around only based on scent. When Jean-Baptiste wanders the streets of Paris, he comes upon a red-headed peasant girl carrying a basket of delicious plums. What he's witnessing has caught him entirely by surprise. Even though she is gorgeous, it's her scent that draws him. He manages to keep up with her despite the whirlpool of people around him. She does, however, recognize him, greet him, and present him with a plum when she eventually does meet him. In lieu of taking advantage of the opportunity, he chooses to bury his nose in her palm, eager for the smell of her flesh to fill his nostrils with pleasure. Her unusual behavior makes her feel uncomfortable, so she leaves. Later that night, he bumps into her once again on the dark Parisian streets. He then covered her mouth so she couldn't cry for help. He does this because he wants to hurt her, but rather because Grenouille likes how she smells. The first thing he notices after smelling the fragrance of her body is how fast what's subsequently called the soul of being, the essence of a person, disappears once she's dead. It's now crystal obvious what Jean-Purpose Baptiste's life is: to discover a method to preserve fragrance and beauty and to hoard them for himself forever. Since his unusual birth, his lack of upbringing, and the fact that the poor wretch never learned anything about love and depended only on his senses to lead him, his answer is to capture and sustain love and infatuation via the use of smell, perfume. Dustin Hoffman plays a washed-up Italian perfumer named Giuseppe Baldini, who runs an overpowering scent store on the Ponto Change Bridge. Jean-Baptiste enters Baldini's workplace as though he's been a regular employee for years, delivering goat skins. He shows how good his nose is, even if he can't read, by identifying the smells of essential oils even when they're in sealed bottles. To entice Jean-Baptiste, Baldini promises to teach him the art and trade of perfuming in return for Jean-Baptiste's inventiveness and almost whimsical ability to create complex fragrances on the fly. Through the use of musical vocabulary, the audience is given a crash lesson in perfuming. A total of 3 unique notes, each of which contains 4 distinct scents, are used in the creation of the perfume. In music, harmony or agreement is achieved by mixing letters in a certain way. A bright head note gives off a fresh impression but quickly fades away. This is followed by a long-lasting heart note and, lastly, a short-lasting bass note in each fragrance. However, Baldini informs Jean-Baptiste that many perfumers think a 13th smell is necessary to create a really outstanding fragrance. According to him, an ancient Egyptian tomb once had a wonderful scent that everyone on earth thought they were in heaven when it was uncovered. A pound of essential oil may be made from 10,000 roses in Jean-Baptiste's time with Baldini. While watching, we are drawn into the realm of smells and become fascinated with Jean-Baptiste, Pierre Baldini, and their boiler-based methods as well as the resulting liqueurs and mixtures. However, there comes the point when Jean-Baptiste discovers he can't retain the essence of certain materials, such as copper, glass, and an unlucky feline, and wonders how he'll ever keep a woman's smell in his experiments. In the end, he gets psychosomatic smallpox and thinks his life's goal is unachievable because of it. Grenouille doesn't wholly recover until Baldini explains Jean-Baptiste Grasse's origin of the fragrance trade in the enfleurage method. When Jean-Baptiste is scarred by smallpox, he leaves the city for the woods, where he finds refuge from the town's smell after selling Baldini's 100 perfume formulae for a journeyman's paper, which allows him to escape the stench of the city. He takes shelter in an ancient cave almost entirely free of odors and is far away from his regular haunts, where he finds peace and quiet. There, Grenouille comes to terms with the fact that Grenouille has no sense of smell. Without a scent, he believes, he doesn't exist. He has no significance. With this goal in mind, he makes a solemn promise to prove to himself and to the rest of the world that he really is something, a rare, unrivaled talent. There's a weird excitement building for Jean-Baptiste's new scent. A murderer is not his first goal upon arriving in Grasse, but instead, he engages a prostitute in the local industry's enfleurage process, which he has mastered as an assistant. The smell may be extracted by spreading animal fat on a person, wrapping them in cloth, then squeezing out the grease, which he then combines with alcohol and evaporates, leaving just the extracted scent. While the prostitute is refusing to participate in the experiment, Jean-Baptiste finds via enfleurage that it is possible to encapsulate the smell of the lady in a perfume. Furthermore, he learns that the smell may entice the prostitute's dog, which in turn could confound locals. A series of killings occur in Grasse as he builds his alliance, which causes people to become alarmed. To protect his daughter, Laura, from the assassin, local tycoon, Antoine Riquez, orders a curfew and a manhunt. Still, neither action prevents Jean-Baptiste from locating 12 women to create his perfume. There is no sexual assault on any victims, they are all discovered clubbed to death, their clothes torn off, and their hair shaved and squeezed for its essence. He doesn't know why Antoine thinks the murderer is after his daughter, but he nevertheless attempts to hide her from the authorities by fleeing Grasse on his own. With the help of his nose, Jean-Baptiste locates the Riquez family, who has taken cover in a nearby forest. Laura's death provides him with his 13th and last ingredient for his scent. When Jean-Baptiste has just finished creating the perfect perfume, he is captured. Jean-Baptiste had been surrounded by death long before he made the conscious decision to kill. A witness discovers his mother's crime when the baby's cries lead other people to believe she abandoned the child. His orphanage mistress is murdered after selling Jean-Baptiste to a tannery, and the chief tanning officer, high on his feet from Baldini when he falls into the river and drowns. Before departing for Grasse, Baldini's orphanage mistress sends him 100 recipes, but he never makes a single one of them. When a serial murderer has killed almost 20 people, intentionally and accidentally, the audience must ask themselves how to sympathize with him. And since the crowd is so influential in shaping how people see Jean-Baptiste, the mob acts as an unruly and irrational force, a population that Jean-Baptiste does not belong to but from whom he wants approval and cares deeply to please with his fragrances. When Jean-Baptiste is sentenced to death, the mob yells and celebrates, demanding his immediate execution. Crowds move like schools of fish when Jean-Baptiste arrives in Paris for the first time. People gather in Grasse's church to request that a local bishop excommunicate the assassin. Still, when word breaks that someone has confessed to the crimes of Jean-Baptiste, the throng falls silent, and the town's mob mentality returns to normalcy. The disguised executioner rouses the eager audience at Jean-Execution Baptiste's by displaying a grisly show of justice. Just before he is about to be hung, Jean-Baptiste sprays himself with his exquisite perfume to attract his executioner's attention. They bring him to the plaza in a carriage rather than in chains in order to calm the enraged mob that has gathered at his sight. Aside from that, the scent of him helps to calm the violent crowd. The executioner falls to his knees at the smell of Jean-Formal Baptiste's attire as he approaches the platform, proclaiming him innocent. Jean-Baptiste replies with a bow and a wet handkerchief, which he waves over the throng. Attending bishop says, "This is no man. Look at it. An angel. Even Rickes was overwhelmed by the crowd's cheers and tears as they admired his pure innocence. When everyone is taken in by sexual pleasure simultaneously, they all undress and get completely immersed in the experience. It was euphoric to many. In an instant, the swarming, angry mob transforms into an unidentifiable sea of flesh that seems utterly unaware of its surroundings. The movie ends when Jean-Baptiste is consumed with thoughts of his plum girl and how he will never be loved in the same way that other people are. The charming orgiastic throng eventually awakens and departs the place, never mentioning whatsoever about what may have happened before it did. Ignoring the fact that he might use his fragrance to command the love of humanity and control the world, he decides to return to the place where he was brought into the world, the fish market in Paris, and live there for the time being. He sprays his hair and neck with the last of his perfume. The local traders and purchasers see an angel and are driven to rush to Jean-Baptiste and devour him, devouring his flesh until there is nothing left of him to eat. They believe they have done something pure and simple out of love by doing this. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this to help the channel out. Have a nice day.